tú eres muy malo, roto el pato de vestuario. La interpretación siempre negativa, nunca positiva.
Hello, welcome to Siempre Positivo in Montjuic as I, Sam Marsden, walk down the hill from the Olympic Stadium back into Barcelona with Rick Sharma.
How's it going, everyone? Hopefully these walking pods aren't too annoying to listen to. Hopefully the sound is okay.
Yeah, we're walking down the hill after Barcelona's 3-1 win against Elche. Barca getting back to winning ways after that Clásico defeat. It was a bright start, 2 early goals coming from good pressing, or the second one from sort of a slightly fortunate rebound situation if you listen to Elche coach Eder Sarabia. But the goals were well taken. The first one by Lamine Yamal, set up by Alejandro Balde. Both Balde and Lamine brilliant in the goal. The second, similar in a way, in that Ferran picked the ball up in a slightly similar area and slide the ball across for Ferran Torres to make it 2-0. Barca, as we have seen a couple of times this season, although from 1-0 more than 2-0, switched off a little bit from there. Elche came back into the game just before half-time through Rafa Mir to make it 2-1. And they had chances to equalise. Mir hit the bar at 2-1 in the second half before Rashford made it 3-1 to Barcelona with his 6th goal, although just his second in La Liga this season. There were chances for both teams, to be fair. Flick said it could have ended 5 or 6-2, which would perhaps been slightly flattering towards Barcelona. Maybe 6-3 or 5-3 would have been fairer to Elche, who had their fair share of chances, although it never, I think there were maybe times when it felt a little bit like, oh, could Elche nick something here, but it felt quite comfortable, like Barca could have maybe gone to another level if they needed to. I don't know if I'm being kind with that, Rick.
I think a little bit kind, to be honest. My view on the game is the Barca did deserve to win, but I wouldn't have given Barca as many as 6 goals, maybe not even 5, maybe just 3 or 4, and Elche could easily have scored 3 because they obviously had the goal and then Mir hitting the woodwork twice. Well, I think that
let's try and remember them. So bear in mind this is a pod with no little research because we're walking down the hill, so we're based on our sort of immediate recollection.
Yeah.
There's the Rashford one. That wasn't offside, was it? When he comes in and he cuts inside and fires it wide.
No, that was okay, yeah.
There's the Lamine Yamal one when it's cut back to him and he shoots over.
Yeah, but I mean these aren't like clear goal scoring chances in my opinion.
No. Are there any other really clear chances?
Not really for Barca. I don't remember any, or maybe just 1 or 2 saves by Iñaki Peña, but not especially good ones.
Yeah.
So I think you and Flick are maybe slightly too generous on this, and that Barca didn't get away with it, because like I said, they did deserve to win this game, but not by a great deal. It could have been tighter, and it was in keeping, in my opinion, with their recent performances. If you take the Clásico out of it, if you look at the other games, I believe this is in keeping with them. Flick seems to think it was a step better than those ones.
Yeah, I didn't want to sell it as sort of being like a massive step forward or a massively positive performance. It was a job done performance. It's sometimes hard to judge those games, and I guess the players shouldn't do this, but like at 2-0, it felt a little bit like, well, that's the game done now. It's going to be a bit boring for everyone that's here. And maybe the players had that sort of energy and sort of feel as well, and they needed to wake up a little bit. But like you say, there were... Yeah,
and the goal that they got back, Rafa Mir's goal, did kind of come out of nothing. It was a breakaway. It was not very good defending, as usual for Barca this season. But even then, even beyond that, you still have Mir, who's maybe 15, 16 yards out, not in the best position, and he bends this perfect shot into the bottom corner, round Araujo and round Szczesny. More or less an absolutely exquisite finish from Rafa Mir, who we don't like, who's in trouble in the moment. He's got a court case against him for sexual assault last year, so not good to see him playing and scoring, to be honest.
No, back from the Barca point of view, I think Flick says, it's a step forward. Is it a step forward? I guess the question is it really a step forward? I mean, Barca always or should always beat Elche at home, regardless of Elche having an okay season. Under Eder Sarabia, the former obviously assistant here at Barcelona under Quique Setién, many may remember him playing some good football, and they even had more possession than Barca today. But it's a game that Barca should win, as they had done. Girona went to stoppage time, didn't it, until they won it, and the Olympiacos big win.
Yeah.
The games they should be winning at home. But like you say, there were still mistakes there. So is it a step forward, like it's being sold as by Flick? What Flick spoke about this week a lot is had some great training sessions.
Yeah, the last 2 training sessions for the game, he said, were great, and he reiterated it again today. He was like, if you saw those training sessions, then you believe in this team. But Look, to be honest, I don't think so. Maybe a quarter step forward if I'm gonna have to prescribe how much of a step it was. My thoughts on this Elche team. Obviously, they're doing well. They're ninth for a promoted side. That's good. They play good football. They're good to watch, as Flick likes to say. But at the end of the day, it's easier for Barca if these teams come to Barca and play away and try to play football and try to score, because they play a game similar to Barca. Barca just have way better players than Elche.
Yeah.
So yeah, Barca are going to win this game. I think actually teams are better served at the moment coming to Barca and playing low block and trying to shut them down like that.
And hit them on the counter. It did feel a little bit like at 2-0 you thought, could they go on and really smash them here? I was going to say last season, and there was a run last season where they were hitting 4, 5 or 6 in sort of every other week, if not every week. And obviously they did against Olympiacos, but it's certainly not been, they haven't had that ruthlessness to them this season.
I think that will come with Lewandowski back, when Rafinha's back. I think there will be stages this season where Barca do hit 4 goals, 5 goals on a regular basis again.
Yeah. What my kind of view on, to go back to the step forward or not thing, is it's kind of irrelevant. I kind of look at these 3 games and touches on what you just say there. Elche today, Club Brugge on Wednesday, Celta Vigo on Sunday, and think they just need to more or less get through those games with 3 wins.
Yeah.
No one's really going to remember the performances against Elche, against Club Brugge, against Celta Vigo if they win the games. And in the meantime, we saw Lewandowski and Olmo come off the bench today. Flick's just told us that Joan Garcia, probably not for Wednesday, but could be around the squad for Sunday. Maybe they might wait until after the break now rather than rushing back. But Joan Garcia is definitely going to be back after the break. You'd imagine Rafinha will as well. We'll see how long Pedri's out for. Obviously, he's out for a few weeks now. But if these injuries sort of dry up and if they get these 3 wins, it puts them in a slightly better place, doesn't it, when they after the international break?
Well, yeah, because the players come back. They come back and think, okay, now we can focus. Now there's no more international breaks until, is it March maybe? The next one after that. Obviously there's the winter break, but it's not super long, and I think that you just get through to the next block and think 5 points on Madrid is not, it's not a small lead, but it's not a big lead either from Real Madrid. And I think that's the key, really. Yeah, just get these wins and get to the next block of matches in okay shape with players coming back.
Yeah, Real Madrid won 4-0 against Valencia, of course, on Saturday, so still 5 points clear of Barca. Madrid have won 10 out of 11 games. They've just had that one defeat to Atletico.
13 out of 14 overall comps, because they obviously won the first 3 Champions League games as well. Like we said on the last pod, and actually I said, like I mentioned on the last pod, I was doubting Madrid's quality during the Clásico because they couldn't put away this poor Barca team in the Clásico. But after seeing the Valencia game, which I think was their best performance to date, and obviously it helps that Valencia were not very good at the Bernabeu, and looking at the numbers and looking at how Bellingham's come back and he's now in good form, scored 3 goals against Barca, against Juve, against Valencia, seeing how Vinicius started and that issue with Alonso seems to be brushed under the carpet. It's certainly, I don't think it's going to play a part in how Vinicius does in the next few months, but it might play a part in him whether he stays at the club long term or not. But yeah, I think Madrid, as we said in the last one, I've got further levels to reach, and they are not going to drop a lot of points, which is why I say 5 points is not small. It's not a small lead, because they are playing in such. It's not inevitable, but they're playing in a way that is at the moment going to be difficult for us to find the gap to get back in.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit like what, and some people might say it hasn't aged that well. Obviously, that chat we had with Tony earlier in the season about the general level of La Liga and whether Barca and Madrid would be able to sort of go on massive winning runs, and Madrid kind of have, apart from that Atletico game. And even Barca have got 25 out of 33. How many games have gone now?
11. So yeah, 33 points.
Yeah. So it's just obviously it's just that Sevilla one really. That's the big sort of blemish. You can lose a Clásico. They obviously drew a game as well, but yeah, the Rayo one. But in general, they are winning games. Like in other leagues, it would probably be better. You'd probably be closer to the top. It's just that Madrid record. But back to the Elche game. Let's move on to Lamine.
Yeah, Lamine, I guess a talking point, because he looks better. He certainly looked better than in the Clásico, but that wouldn't be difficult because he would look terrible in the Clásico. But he scored for one early goal, 9th minute, curled into the far corner, nice finish, nice footwork. And in the first half, I think he looked pretty good, and in the second half, he was kind of diminished a little bit.
Yeah, he's just lacking that 1% spark in terms of beating a man, getting on the ball as much. He doesn't seem as involved as much. I don't know if that's just an interpretation thing. I've not looked at the numbers behind that in terms of like touches and whatnot, because there was a spell towards the end of last season where he was just so involved. He was having, I sent you the numbers at one point, over sort of 100 touches per game. So I was probably looking into that this week actually. Now it's on my mind just to see what his sort of involvement is in games.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it will be much lower, but I think a big part of that is because of the injury. But Flick even said it in the press conference before the match that we need to get Lamine on the ball, he said, which is obviously... I mean, in the Clasico, he did have a fair bit of the ball, just wasn't able to do anything with it because he wasn't trying to beat his man, he wasn't capable of that in that game. But, I mean, Flick after the game said what we kind of suspected for the last few weeks, even though if you rewind back 2 or 3 weeks, Flick said, Lamine's fit, he's fit again. And then we watched him, I can't remember which game it was now, maybe it was Girona, but we watched Barca play, and afterwards we were just like, there's no way that Lamine is not still being affected by this groin injury. And today Flick said he's still being affected by the groin injury and needs to do his physio and training to get better, and it might still be a thing. Can't say it's over for the weeks ahead. And actually, this is not, I'm not going to go as far as saying it's speculation, but I kind of got a sense from what Flick said after the game that maybe Lamine hadn't been 100% doing all his physio or focused on his physio and recovery.
I don't think it was, maybe not as much focus in terms of other things. I don't think he'd have been missing treatment and stuff like you suggested.
No, not like not turning up and stuff. But Flick seemed to think that this week Lamine has been way more focused on that kind of thing and has reaped a reward for it in this game.
I don't know if he has. I still think he's missing something. I don't know if it's. I mean, I guess it is. There must be a small part of it to do with the injury if it's still an issue which Flick says he's managing. But also, I just think it's like a psychological thing and stuff. I've never had this injury, but whenever you come back from injuries, and especially if it's like an ongoing one, that's not like, oh, now you're recovered. It does hold you back a little bit, whether in his head or in the body.
Yeah, no, it's true. And also, I see what you mean by this 1% thing. There was a moment in the second half where he went outside of the defender, down towards the touchline near the goal. And a few weeks ago, or last season especially, you would have trusted him to get to the ball before it went out and to put in a cross and probably end up in the goal. But in this case, the defender was with him all the way to the line and he couldn't get the cross in.
Yeah, I mean, and this isn't very good for the podcast, but I just don't quite know what Flick hasn't really given us like an end game. We're obviously not doctors, so it's obviously like how do you say it in English? Do you describe it as a groin issue?
A groin issue. I do say injury sometimes as well, yeah.
Because in Spanish it's but that's also that's like a Latin word. You can also use it in English or not?
I once tried to use this in English this is years ago now, like 4 or 5 years ago, for some other player that was injured.
But Messi had it as well. Lionel Messi had issues.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was Messi. And I got told by my editor never to use that word in my copy again. So,
in English?
Yeah. I mean, not because it's not a word. He was just like, no one wants to read that.
Yeah, I mean, going to extreme lengths to imitate Messi. So yeah, I mean, Sergi Capdevila did something on it with like a doctor and stuff on sport, but there doesn't seem to be sort of like a definitive answer. Barca have had this with a lot of players in recent years, something where it's like, we'll toe the line with some treatment, but then at some point we may have to do something more serious. Just interesting again with the international break coming up in November again, if Lamine goes with Spain, if he stays, I'm
sure he will, unless something happens between now and then. As far as Spain are concerned, if Lamine's playing for his club, then he should be playing for Spain.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, maybe the key here is that Lamine plays, because these 2 games are when Spain can qualify for the World Cup. If they win the first and Turkey don't win, or they win the second, which is against Turkey, then Spain win the group and are at the World Cup. After that, in the international breaks before the World Cup, if the issue's still going on after the winter break...
not until March, that international break. It's kind of like a non-issue.
Well, you hope it's not an issue.
Yeah.
You hope it's not an issue, but you never know with this injury.
But I don't think anyone's thinking about that March international break, neither Spain nor Barcelona.
No, but what I'm saying is that maybe, if it is still going on by then, De La Fuente would think, well, we won't call him up then, try and get him fit for the World Cup.
Maybe he would, but if it was like a situation like it is now, I still think De La Fuente would be like, well, he comes with us because this is our last window before the World Cup and I want as many people together as possible.
Yeah, they'll have some games in sort of June before the sort of tune-up games before the tournament proper.
Yeah. Pedri's absence was taken by Marc Casado.
Yeah, maybe more spiritually by Frenkie de Jong in the game in terms of who had the ball and how Barca were operating. As Flick said afterwards, Frenkie in the 8 and Casado in the 6.
A lot of praise from Sarabia, the Elche coach, for Frenkie.
Frankie in the first half, yeah, he said in the first half Frankie was the player that unbalanced us the most. A very difficult word to translate into English, but yeah, unbalanced us the most. And I think that's fair enough. I think Frankie had a good game. As I said to you though, the problem with Frankie is I'm not criticising Frankie for necessarily not playing well at home against Elche. I'm saying I want him to play brilliantly away at Real Madrid.
Yeah. And a couple of assists for Fermin.
Yeah, I think Fermin was okay. I don't think he was amazing, but the assists were nice. Like crossfield pass for Rashford, and the first goal was a nice sort of low cross for tap in for Ferran Torres. I mean, Fermin's done pretty well in the games he's had to show he should be starting ahead of Dani Olmo. Olmo came on for Fermin, and I think that if anything that almost symbolises that we want to take Fermin off and get him fit and ready for Bruges on Wednesday.
I don't know, I kind of still thought it was quite early. I thought Fermin looked a little bit surprised to be going off. I think just because other players were, maybe, I don't know, I guess because Ferran's come back after him, because Lamine's managing an issue, he looks a little bit like slightly surprised, I'd say, but not in like a big upset way, just in a bit,
not in a Vinicius way.
No, just in a bit like, I thought I was going to stay on here. So he went, but no, I really did enjoy his. The thing is, there's still a lot of work for Rashford to do for the goal that he scores, but the pass from Lamine, I just love it, just because I just love the way he striked the ball. It's not like he's like put it on a plate for Rashford, but it's just such a lovely strike of the ball, sort of almost across the pitch. Just really enjoyed it. And Rashford scored one, but says himself could have scored and assisted a few more, and it was one of those days, more or less. Flick said as well, he'd liked him. That's the next step, that's the next evolution he wants from Rashford. He wants him to be, I mean, his numbers are good. I think he's got 6 goals, 6 assists for Barca this season, 12 goal contributions in, I think he's played 13 or 14, I think he's played all 14 games now, hasn't he?
He's played everything, hasn't he? I think if you take out those first games when he's still adapting, the numbers look even better if you take out the
because
first
his first goal contribution came after the September international break against Valencia, I think.
Yeah.
You can take out those first 3 games in a way.
Yeah. I thought today, despite his excellent finish, I didn't think he was at his best. And maybe even for a different reason than Rashford might say, he didn't get more goals and assists or whatever. I just thought he just looked a little bit off compared to other performances. There's a moment where he takes the ball out of play on the touchline near me.
Tries to go out in the first half.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's just a few moments in today's game where Rashford didn't look as good as he has looked in recent weeks.
Yeah. I forgot to say when we were talking about Lamine, the big news of the day was I was sat next to, sat close to the main man. Hasselhard was sat near me. I noticed a little bit of commotion and looked to my left, and there was Hasselhard stood up.
Commotion follows Hasselhard wherever he goes.
People like liking him, like cheering him, and really sort of enjoying the fact that he was there. He was quite sort of vocal in terms of like cheering and shouting and joining in with chants and stuff.
Cheering Hector Fort.
When Hector Fort came on, he stood up and made like a big clap, and no one else was really clapping, and he was just looking around saying "De La Casa," like, because obviously he would have come through with Lamine. So it was like he came, he's from the club, give him a big support. He probably knows Hector Fort quite well. He's probably watched Hector Fort since he was like 11 or 12. Like, I think Fort is 2006, not 2007, but I'm sure him and Lamine would have played a lot of games together. Could be completely wrong. I've not double checked that. And then he was up on his feet as well when Lamine came off, and then he was gone. He was out of there. A few people sort of came asking for selfies, and he was like, "No, I'm out of there." Some people actually started shouting like, "The game's still going on!" Like, and at first I thought, yeah, the game is still going on. But then also, if he'd have stayed to the end, like, it would have been like
nightmare getting out.
Like people that leave early to beat traffic.
Yeah. Like,
not that he would have been in traffic. I don't know how he gets home. I don't know if he goes to a players' lounge or if he goes straight home or whatnot. But just like, if he'd have stayed until the end, like even when he tried to leave early, people started like running to Lamine Yamal's dad.
I would have been down there asking for me to eat some of his tortilla that he makes.
It's still quite insane in a way that they were like fans like running like when they saw he was leaving to try and like just grab a selfie with Hasselhard before he left.
Well, do you know why that is? It's because they can do it for free, whereas if you want to see Lamine Yamal's mum, you have to pay 150 quid at the Christmas party.
She wasn't sat too far away anyway either. All right then, are you ready for Rick's ratings?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing this while not looking at the team sheets. You might have to remind me of names if I get muddled up, but we'll start with
Tech Chesney.
Tech Chesney, yeah. Nothing to say. 6 out of 10. Didn't really have to make any say. Oh, yeah, no, take it back. I'll give him 6.5 and say he did well to save from Rafa Mir the shot late on because he tipped it onto the post. Yeah. His kicking was a bit bad in this game, Chesney. It was almost like, I almost liked it. It was like returning to the classic Chesney of last season when he first came in, just like rushing out and punting the ball somewhere. Defence, Jules Koundé, I'm going to give him 5.5. He was a little bit better than in some recent games, but he's still lacking for me, Jules Koundé. Still lacking. Interesting on the defence. Araujo, we'll give him a 5 because I'll probably say he's the most culpable figure in the first goal, trying to call Rafa Mir offside and Rafa Mir still in his own half. But what I will say is we didn't think about this, and we should have, because if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If we were bringing in Araujo into the team, we were saying, pair Araujo and Koubarsi, but actually Eric's been reasonably good this season and Koubarsi's been reasonably bad. It actually made sense to pair Eric with Araujo.
Well, Flick also said that Koubarsi has a slight problem. He'd missed the session after the break. I think he meant just because they had a midweek free. I think they had Monday, Tuesday off, and I think Koubarsi then didn't train on Wednesday, so I think that the suggestion was that aided the decision as well. But like you say, it's perfectly, based on form and performances, perfectly acceptable to go Eric.
And it's also a nice thing for Flick to say. He doesn't need to say, binned off Koubarsi. You just, he missed the session, dropped him out for that. Araujo 5. I'll give Eric a 6.5. I thought Eric was pretty good, solid, no complaints for me. Balde, I'll give him a 7. Nice contribution for the first goal. A bit of a wayward cross after that one. He
had one bad moment in the first half where he I don't know if he misread the bounce of the ball or he let it bounce and almost got himself into a little bit of a problem.
He did recover from it. I think what happened was he misread it slightly and then he thought to himself, I'm not going to be able to outmuscle the striker, so he changed his defensive
he got a bit confused
idea.
About what to do,
and then into midfield, I'm going to give Frenkie 7.5. Thought he was one of the better players today. Casado, I'll give 6.5. Was okay. Fermin, I'll give a 7 for his 2 assists, but like I said, he wasn't outstanding really, apart from those assists. Busy road now. We're on Parallel for anyone who knows the area, Montjuic and coming down. Lamine Yamal, I will give I'm between 6.5 and 7. I'll give a 7. He scored his goal. He's on his back from injury. He was okay. Didn't really do much wrong apart from his bad shot. And then Rashford, I'm going to give a 7 to as well for similar reasons. Again, not the best performance, but nice finish. And the Shark. I didn't get any messages about the Shark's performance after the Real Madrid game. Unlike perhaps when he scores goals in games like against Elche. I'm going to give the Shark I'll give him a 7 like the other goal scorers.
50 Barcelona goals for the Shark.
Yeah, not bad. All 3 forwards I could give less marks to, but I'll give them 7. That's about it.
Yeah, I think it's just like a case of job done. Whether it's a step forward or not is for each person to have their own opinion, I guess. But slightly trickier for Barca this week now. Club Brugge on Wednesday, Celta Vigo on Sunday. Games they should still be winning, but yeah, slightly more difficult than Elche at home.
Yeah, I'm going to the Celta one. The reason we're recording now is for various reasons. One, Tony was out of town this weekend and he would have found it quite difficult to record tomorrow anyway, and I'm going away tomorrow to Porto, a couple of days of holiday and then work towards the end of the week for Barca Celta. And first time at Balaidos. Have you ever been?
No, never been to Galicia.
No, nor me actually. That's why I'm going. One of the reasons. Excited. It should be a good game.
Yeah, Balaidos is also a tricky place for Barca to go, which is always sort of in the back of my mind when they go there. Has been for Ter Stegen in the past. He's always seemed to have problems there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back. I'll be back with Tony after that Champions League game against Club Brugge on Wednesday.
I'm a fitness doubt for that pod, but maybe I do have to watch that game on Wednesday, so maybe it depends on timing and stuff. Might be around.
We'll see. That podcast will be dropping on Patreon later in the week. We'll then be back on Monday, of course. After the Celta Vigo game, we've got a few episodes coming up in the international break as well, continuing to build our dream Barca team. I don't think you'll be able to guess who's the next place in the team as we move on to the right wingers. Rick, no spoilers.
No, I will endeavour not to spoil this, but we have recorded the right winger pod, and we haven't done the left wing one, but we're planning to. So
we've got the left winger pod ready to go. I've given the boys all the stats. I've given them their cheat sheet so they don't have to do any research.
Marsden got too unhappy with some of the research me and Tony did for the first lot of players. Was like taking charge of the situation.
Yeah. So yeah, all that to come during the international break, but we'll be back on Thursday after Barcelona's trip to Club Brugge in the Champions League. Stay positive.